So hello and welcome to the 46th episode of the Spotlight Podcast, the unofficial podcast for Century 21 sales representatives in Canada, where we discuss the hot topics and important news in the real estate industry. So I'm your host, Linas Kilius, and with me, as always, is Eryn Richardson. How's it going, Eryn?
Hey, I'm doing very well.
Good to hear. So Eryn is a broker and general manager with Century 21 Heritage Group. Eryn has an extensive background in online marketing, technology, and customer service. And I'm the head of business development of the real estate marketing company, Homeania. So we've spent the past several episodes discussing the pillars of your business. And so far, we've covered pillar number 1, setting up your CRM. Pillar number 2, taking advantage of open houses to expand your sphere of influence. And finally, pillar number 3, geographically farming to, again, expand your sphere of influence. So I'm sensing a bit of a trend here. You've got your sphere of influence growing. You've got a business plan in place. You've got an advertising budget, and you're farming an area. But today we're going to talk about focused prospecting. How can you maximize your time, energy, and money prospecting to ensure you can get the best results? But before we get into that, there is some breaking news out of the Bank of Canada today. It's being called the most ground-shaking mortgage rules of all time. Eryn, is that true? Is this an overreaction? What is it exactly that we're hearing from the Bank of Canada today?
Well, it's a big change. It was an online quote that somebody had, put on there in terms of the, they keep talking about making small changes and, stress tests and everything, but this is a big change. This is going to dramatically affect what people can afford to purchase.
So what exactly is the change?
Well, what they're doing is they're suggesting that instead of qualifying, so if you're putting more than 20% down, so it's not CMHC insured or Genworth insured, it's not insured mortgage, you're considered an A client of the bank. You will now have to qualify not for the posted rate or the best rate. Currently, let's say a 5-year fixed is at 297. You're going to have to tag another 2% onto that in order to qualify. So you'll be actually having to qualify at 5%, which brings your qualification amount of what you can spend down considerably.
It sounds like a bit of a precursor to rates going up. Is that the general consensus?
Well, I think so. I mean, that's what everything is pointing towards. So it might be a good time for everybody to look at your mortgage situation, see if it's better to lock in. I've got a variable mortgage currently, so it might be, time to re-look at that and see if the 297 is going to be, better than my variable 24 or whatever, right? So jump into a 5-year fixed.
Now, is this going to affect the marketplace, make people a little bit, not buying and selling as much, do you think?
Well, I can't. Right now, if you're a first-time home buyer and you have saved the 20%, you're all, oh, great, I'm willing to, now put some good money towards my future home. You're 37 years old. You finally can afford. Now, what they're saying is the $800,000 home that you may have been able to afford, which would be great if it was a first-time home, but in Toronto, that's the reality. You might not be able to afford something more than $680,000, let's say, because of the qualification change, even if you have a great job and a great credit rating.
Yeah, I mean, 2% extra on the stress test makes a big difference, the amount of mortgage you can afford to. So how should real estate agents be prepping their clients then in terms of buying now, just in terms of being prepared for what they can afford down the road?
Lock in as soon as possible, even though they've set a date of January 1st for these things to take place. They are suggesting that lenders may want to start doing this now. So there may be some lenders that follow suit very quickly to start doing the stress test, and you might not be able to lock in if you don't get to them quick.
You think we're going to see a bit of a rush then right away, like while people are trying to lock in quick while they can?
I do. Yeah, before January, this is going to actually have quite a big, I think, kick to the end of the year. So good for the next 3 months, but maybe not so good going into next year. So that might be. Now, I would highly suggest people get locked in. You can lock in for as long as 3 months, usually with most institutions. So you get your 90-day lock-in, and you can close in February, March. You just can't write the agreement and have a fully guaranteed or committed mortgage with the insurer post January 1st.
Now, this is
you need to have it before that.
Going to shake things up for the next few months before it locks in, and maybe a couple months afterwards. Is this going to affect the spring market, especially in markets like Toronto where you do get that spring market?
Yeah, I would definitely say that could be a good possibility.
So it might be a little bit less volume than last year. I guess everyone should prepare for that.
Well, it's been really tough to get people approved as it stands today. Can you imagine now you've added another 2%? It's just might be tough.
So is this a smart move, do you think, or do you think this was a mistake?
I mean, in the end, it's always smart when you don't have the bubbles and you don't have the you don't have things going crazy, highs the lows. You want to see it sort of have an equilibrium. But the problem is usually the highs and lows are caused by things like this. So unfortunately, I still think it's a little bit too much government interaction with the rules in order to stifle or bring down the average house pricing and stuff. It could really have a negative, dramatic effect. I mean, think about how hard it is for somebody now to qualify for their first home. Like, you're just making it harder for them to qualify. So people aren't, it's the consumer debt that they're worried about right now. It's so high. So, but aren't they going to get in more debt when they have to now borrow more and not have equity in their home in order to pay off the debt? Like, it's a really, it's a scary situation.
Yeah, I don't envy the people at the Bank of Canada making all these different choices and everything too, because they've got to weigh, the economy factors as well, and being able to, they have to eventually bring interest rates up so they have more play to bring them back down if they need to stimulate the economy in the future too.
Yeah, you're just being nice. You know what? And sometimes I think a little too political, but I just, at this point in time, I just think it's way too much government intervention. And I got to tell you right now, we criticize the government over the last year saying they haven't done anything. Like, this new Liberal government hasn't really done much. Trudeau hasn't done much. Wow, things are, he really knows when to turn it on, because there's a lot of changes going on right now with corporations and taxes within the corporation changing, and now these being able to obviously afford a home. These are big things that affect our economy.
Yeah, now that we're getting to the end of the year, I mean, we're looking towards next year. Maybe people are starting to think about their business plans. Are you starting to advise agents to prepare for maybe a year where they do make a little bit less in terms of sales, just financially speaking?
Yeah, you will see, and we've already seen it right now. 50% of our office are actually walking and going, good, this is what we need, right? The other 50% is going, no, I'm going to be out of a job. So it's a split. And what's really happening is the agents that are doing a great job and build their business through repeat referral and people that trust them will stay in business. And in fact, they'll flourish because they do everything right. And when you list your house for sale, it's going to be tougher to sell. So you're going to want somebody who really knows what they're doing. The agents that, let's say the low knowledge and low information agents, they're not going to be able to withstand this type of market. So you have to decide what agent you're going to be. So business planning and everything we're talking about with regards to building pillars of business and everything is going to come into so much more play.
Yeah, you see that with any sort of economy, like any sort of niche market and everything too, is once you do have a bit of a downturn or a slowdown, if things not as easy as it was previously, you get like the ones that kind of survive through it being stronger for it too. So I guess that does encourage to make sure that you are a bit smarter with your money and you do have that business plan going into the next year so you are prepared for it. You can, like you said, flourish in the situation where other agents might flounder.
That's right.
All right, well, let's get into the show then, because we're talking about targeted prospecting. So I didn't actually know what you were talking about when you first suggested this as a topic. So how about you tell me a little bit about what targeted prospecting is and how you get your most money out of prospecting?
Sure. When you're looking at your different pillars and places where your business comes from, I always break it down to 3 areas: your sphere of influence, paid advertising, and prospecting. Other people break it down to pillars or profit centers. And essentially, we're all doing the same thing. We're focusing on areas that we're going to really target to get our business moving. So one of the things we did was start with sphere of influence because it's the most important. You can't do any prospecting or anything in your business unless you have a book of business that you're maintaining all the time. Open houses were great. Now we're talking about prospecting, which is going out and finding somebody tomorrow that's going to buy or sell. So you want to create a lead from something you do, and in this case, we're going to be targeting on something called just listed and just solds.
So what do you mean? As soon as you say prospecting, the thing I think about is door knocking. Are we talking about door knocking here?
So we are, let's be honest, but you'd be door knocking if you're doing your farm area too. Mm-hmm. So it's not really door knocking as a pillar or profit center. And you don't want to look at it that way. You want to look at, why am I door knocking? So you're going to door knock within your area that you're farming. This is a specific way that you're going to target an area that's more likely to give you a result quicker through homes that have been just listed or just sold.
Okay, so you're actually focusing on a specific area that happens to be, for whatever reason, you think like the hotter area to be ready to sell. So you're targeting those factors. Is it just the fact that a listing's popping up in an area? Is that the number one factor we're talking about today?
So yeah, if a house has popped up in an area for sale, you know the neighbors are checking it out, and they're going to keep their eye on it. So we often know as real estate agents, and I know this is a fact the last 10 years, that when I sold a house in an area, you'll see the next week after it sells, something else pops up in the area. It just seems like it's a domino effect. And they have actually done some research to find that if a house is on sale on the street, you have a 37% higher chance of another house coming up. So which gives you a 37% higher chance of getting a possible lead from that street just because of there being a house for sale on it.
And when your time is valuable, 30% extra value out of your time is an important thing. So if that listing pops up, what do you do? Do you set up a lemonade stand outside of the for sale sign and just start talking to anyone who's looking at it?
Sure, lemonade stand. No, door knocking is probably the way you're going to go about it, and nobody really loves to door knock. But if you have some good information to provide and you know what you're going to say and come prepared, it's actually quite profitable, especially if you do it consistently.
So how would you start the door knocking process? Like, what would you say to the people? What kind of information are you bringing to the table? Obviously, I guess the listing price of the house, maybe some information about the house. But
well, sometimes it's, there's questions that are asked. Should I target areas that a house that I've just listed? Obviously, yes. You have a higher percentage chance that you've listed the house, so they're going to want to know from you the information, all the rest of it. But it doesn't really matter if you're new into the business and you want to target an area and you want to get out there and get a listing. The best thing is to do is print off a list from your MLS system of houses that sold in the area that you want to work in within the last 7 days. 7 days is a key amount of time because it's kind of like a hot zone. Everybody's talking about the listing in that 7 days. So I would find the street that just had a listing, and it doesn't have to be ours. It doesn't have to be our brokerage. It's just a listing. And what you'll do is you'll go door to door, just letting them know that the house just came up down the street. And there might be a lot of buyers out there looking for homes on the street now. And if any of those buyers happen to come by your desk, would you be interested in maybe having them buy and just see what they think about your house? Would you be interested in possibly selling?
And is that just starting up a conversation because they're a little bit more likely, more amenable than your typical prospect?
Yeah, it starts them to think. You're not asking for a listing. You're not asking them to put the house for sale. You're just saying, hey, have you ever thought about maybe selling the house? And I'm not asking you to put the house on the market, but just if I had a buyer, since that house just came down there, it came up for $799. They'll ask a little bit of information about it. You tell them how the Smith's house is selling. They put it up for $799, so you show that you know the area, know the house, you've been through it, and they say, "Would you have a buyer?" Actually, I don't know if I have a buyer for your house yet because I haven't seen your house. Do you mind taking me through? Right? Let's book an appointment for tomorrow, or would Thursday be better? These are just, again, techniques. I'll be by the area again on Thursday. Do you mind if I can pop by then? And because they already know you're in the area, well, they're not putting you out. So it'd be more likely that they'll invite you back through the day you're there.
You just gave me a bit of an idea too. What if you had a buyer that was looking in the area too? I guess this is a potential idea to maybe find, I know double ending's a bit of a mixed bag issue right now, but I mean, you can go around, maybe you can find a house for your buyer and, find someone who was looking to list as well, right? On the other end.
Obviously, if you have any buyers and they're looking in an area, that's the best. You've got now a qualified buyer that is truly looking for a house in an area, and most areas do have things for sale. Just, you got to stay on top of the just listed. So every Monday, Tuesday, whatever you time block into your schedule, print off the list of the last 7 days. If there was a house sale or a house listed in the area that you have a buyer, it's golden. That's great.
Cool. So what about the other side of it too? If a house just sells in the area too, does that give you any sort of leverage to talk to clients?
Absolutely. You're going to door knock. Hi, I'm Eryn Richardson from Central 21 Heritage Group. A house just up the street sold on your street. Oh yeah, what did it go for? Well, for the purpose of evaluating your home, which we're allowed to do, the house went for. You can tell them a price because you're helping evaluate their home. That's how we get around the rules. But because of the activity on that house, there's still a lot of buyers that lost out. So if any of those buyers, if I could get a hold of some of those buyers that were interested in that house, would you be interested in having them come through your house and maybe we could put a deal together?
It sounds like a pretty enticing offer. If I'm sure there's
Save
probably a
some
lot.
commission, sure.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people out there that are maybe on the fence about selling, but this might be an easy thing to kind of push them over the edge too. To be like, well, if someone's already looking, might as well entertain the idea, and if nothing else, gives you a little bit more face time with the prospect as well.
Really, you're getting an appointment. You're getting an opportunity to create a relationship with that person, and that's the reason why you're there. You are actually there just to create a relationship, and this is a great way to open the door to that relationship. Obviously, if you have a buyer, it makes it much easier. If you don't have a buyer, you still are looking for buyers for them. So you need to see the house to find a buyer for them. So you're not lying. You're saying, listen, I don't know if I have a buyer for your house. I just haven't seen it. Why don't you take me through and we can go through it? And then you establish the relationship and say, listen, I'd love to bring you a buyer. Have you considered this, that, and whatever? So there is extra opportunities to open other doors as soon as they like you.
And how aggressive should you go here? I mean, like there's listings coming up in all sorts of areas all the time. Should you just kind of restrict it to a specific geographical area that you're just focused on farming, or just should you be doing this in your downtime? Like when should you be doing this?
It's not a farming program, so you do not have to have a geographical area. It really does not matter. I liked what you said. If you had a buyer, then that's an area you can target. But other than that, it's wide open. You do not work within what you know. I mean, I think that's important. They will start testing you on your knowledge of the area and what's happening and the sales. So if you don't have the answers to that, 2 months ago, there was another sale down the road. And if they ask you about it, if you don't have the answer to that, you've failed the test. So you do need to be knowledgeable about the area and be able to talk about even coming down to, people's names. Like I said, the Smith's house down the street, that'll give them immediate confidence that you do know the people that are selling.
So is it just listings coming up, listings selling? Is there anything else that might be an indicator that people are willing to wanting to sell or wanting to talk to real estate agents? Like maybe even just news like today, like that we talked about too, like the Bank of Canada having this new stress test, or maybe some news in the neighborhood gives you an excuse to go in the door and talk to people about real estate.
I mean, this is a program that was put together by pretty smart people that work for them. I've heard it of a few different coaches and trainers, so it's really easy for me to say that this works. I used to do something called Nosy Neighbor, so that was my clipboard. I'm taking down information from the people in the neighborhood. Your neighbors are joining a list of people on my system that is going to keep you updated with all the houses and what they're listed for in the area. So I get that email address off them, and then I put them on a prospect search for the area around them and send them emails every time something came up. So that was something that worked really well for me, and it was called Nosy Neighbor. So that was another idea. You can create these creative ideas as long as it works for you and you feel confident about it. That doesn't really matter what you come up with. So yes, there are other things, but try and try and true first before you start, spending a lot of time just trying to be super creative and never really grabbing onto things because they don't stick, right?
Do you find a lot of agents do this kind of targeted prospecting, or is this something that's generally ignored and they just do regular general prospecting?
I don't know if it's ignored. I don't think they've been trained. I think in general, maybe it's a negative opinion of other brokerages, but I just find that if you're not focused on learning and training and bettering yourself and coming to, whether it be prospecting seminars and really getting this information, I think there's a lot of agents out there will just go door to door and say, are you thinking of buying and selling? And that's it. I know somebody does it and does a very good job of it, actually. And last time we talked, I think it was about a year ago, about prospecting. I used him as an example. As he just goes door to door with this business card and says, are you thinking about buying or selling in the next 60 days? No. Do you know anybody that might be thinking about buying and selling in the next 60 days? Have you ever thought about using the equity in your home to buy an income property? And these are just questions they ask, but they're so basic, and he just makes sure he hits as many doors as possible. He really 2.5 times in our area, so he hits probably about 80,000 homes a year or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I guess in that situation too, if you take 80,000 homes, it's a numbers game, right? You improve your success rate by 37% or whatever it happens to be. If you do some more targeted prospecting, you'd get, potentially 37% more leads out of it as well. And you'd greatly increase your batting average, so to speak.
Yeah, usually I talk to the agents in our office about door knocking, and they say, I got to go door knocking, but I don't really want to go door knocking. And I said, well, why don't we? Well, a lot of people close the door and all the rest of it. I said, well, why don't you try this? Would you be comfortable saying this in this area? And they're like, actually, no, that makes it a lot easier, right? Sometimes it's a matter of, especially in your farm area door knocking, just introducing yourself. I just wanted to, meet the neighbors, right? So this is the area I work in. What's your name? How long you been here? What do you do for a living? That sort of thing. And that works well within a farm area. But if you're looking for business tomorrow, you're looking for targeted people looking to buy or sell in the next 90 days, let's say. So this is a great way to do it.
Is there anything else you want to talk about regarding targeted prospecting?
I think a lot of people have questions. I had somebody come in my office today, actually, right before this podcast. It was interesting about cold calling. And he says, you know what, don't we have a system that does this for us and all the rest? I said, yeah, we used telelisting, and we have free, give everybody a free account, and does the do not call list, and lets you do tasks and reminders. He says, yeah, but there's something that actually dials the number for you. I said, yeah, there are definitely auto dialers out there, and that will increase your success rate by like tenfold. I know people that do this and are on network groups and talk about their success rate of cold calling, and it's the same idea. You can do the just listed and just sold program through calling. I think it's about 10% effective, because a lot of the stuff, even, people just don't put their name in registries anymore, and they don't want to be called. So you're only going to be hitting a small percentage. But when you do get that person that picks up the phone, that's a higher chance, right? So these automatic dialers, these third-party websites that'll do it for you, they'll just sit there and keep dialing until they get a connection, and they'll put it through to you as soon as they get a connection. So somebody essentially could be just sitting in front of the computer all day talking to people and not having to lift a finger to make the phone call. So that, I've heard, that is pretty effective for some people. So I thought I would bring it up. I've never done it that way, so I can't say that it's worked for me, but I know it has worked for others. So that might be something people think about.
Well, I guess if it's freezing cold outside or the weather's horrible, it's a nice alternative to getting wet, right? So
that's right.
Or frozen. So yeah, I guess that's multiple ways you can go about the prospecting system here to do some more targeted prospecting. So it seems like some pretty good advice. All right, so I think we're going to close out the show here. So if you like the show, you can subscribe to our show on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts online. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on those sites. You can watch this and past shows at spotlight.century21.ca/podcast. If you need to reach us, you can email us anytime at podcast@homeania.com. That's podcast at HOM as in Mary, EAN as in Nancy, IA.com. This podcast was brought to you by the Spotlight Marketing Program, an exclusive marketing package available only to Century 21 agents in Canada. Spotlight provides agents with a comprehensive marketing strategy for their listings, provide high-quality HDR photography, stunning HD video tours, a cutting-edge responsive website, and an extensive advertising system that will help sell your listings faster, sell them for more money, impress your clients, and generate leads. So find out why so many top agents are using Spotlight by visiting spotlight.century21.ca today. Eryn, thanks again for all that advice. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. Have a great week.
Take care.